Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and joining me this week, Mitch the Avenger Black, and of course our producer, Vinny the Phoenix Santucci. Gentlemen, new bumper music, totally rocking, royalty-free, so the best I could do on short notice. But yeah, not a lot of football happened, no news this week at all. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm just kidding, there was a ton of fantasy news we're going to talk about. We will get to that, but first, gentlemen, how goes it? Say hello to everyone out there.
Hello.
What's up, Delvers? It goes good. It's a weird fantasy for sure. I think there's a lot going on in the world of fantasy football, and I would be curious later if we talk about our thoughts just on the season as a whole, because I could argue that this is probably the hardest year of fantasy football I've ever played.
I mean, conveniently, this is a podcast where everyone has a voice, so we could absolutely talk about that if you want to. But we will get to that later because, as I mentioned, there is a lot of news to get to. But, Mitch, did you have anything you wanted to say, sound like, before we get into the news?
Oh, no, we're all good.
Okay. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot of football because the trade deadline happened. But first, we got to talk about baseball again. I know. I'm sorry to all the listeners out there. This will be the last time for a long time, I'm sure. But, Dodgers won the World Series, and an epic Game 7 comeback goes to extra innings. And not only that, so once again, great game. One of the only two great games in the entire series, honestly, were those two that we talked about. But fun fact, this marks the 6th consecutive season that catcher Will Smith has won the World Series. So guys, next year, I'm just going to make a preseason bet on whatever team he is on to win it all.
Yeah, it's like the modern day, who was that basketball player?
Robert Horry?
Yeah, Robert Horry, like Ron Grant, I think was one of them.
Did you say Will Smith, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it two different Will Smiths, though?
Doesn't matter. It's Will Smith, man. You got to bet on Will.
I'm pretty sure it's like two entirely different people.
But it's two white guys named Will Smith. I mean, what are you going to do?
They've only won, I think one's won 3. It's still impressive that he's won 3 in the last, and the other guy's still won 2 or 3. But it's 2 different guys. I'm like 90% sure.
So I guess what Mitchell's saying is it'd be more impressive if it was 2 different guys by the name of Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
That guy, him winning MVP was pretty interesting. Japan on top.
Yeah.
I mean, it is 4 straight years for this Will Smith, and I think 2 for the other one. But yeah, either way, right? Like just whatever team they're both on, bet on them both. Who knows?
Yeah, but no, I agree with you, Alex. I think it's worth talking about. I mean, you might as well bet on somebody with a team name with a guy named Will Smith, but do the World Series. Huh? How about it? Like, okay. One of the things I wanted to ask though about the World Series is one. I think we were talking on Game 7, and after Game 3, we were like, "Is this one of the best series of all time?" But I'm like, "Dang! It only really had 2 good games. All the other games were like kind of not close."
Game 6 to force Game 7 was decent. It was 3-1.
Yes,
Like, it was a good game.
That's right.
But yeah, the other 4 games in the series were all blowouts on one or the other.
Well, for some reason, the public was interested. The ratings were amazing. I was like, oh, those ratings are only those numbers because it involves Canada. And then you keep reading in the article, it's like, these numbers don't include the Canadian market, in Toronto or whatever. I'm like, well, then the numbers must have been even more crazy. So,
well, you had a big city team on the East Coast and a big city team on the West Coast. That's why.
Yeah, maybe. I think a lot of times people repeat. The casual fans repeat, dynasty type teams, so they don't have to. People say they don't want the Chiefs in the finals, but they do, or the Warriors or whatever. But I think the Dodgers repeating against Toronto had a big draw for sure. But yeah, I was just saying the numbers made it seem like it was really well watched. So
right,
really,
but what I'm saying, Mitch, is this isn't shade at you, so please don't take it that way. But if it were San Diego instead of LA, the numbers would have been a lot worse. Right? San Diego doesn't have that big city feel. I understand that San Diego is a decent sized city. I've been there. I like San Diego. I would recommend everyone, if you're going to go to a city, go to San Diego, not LA, right? But as far as markets are concerned, I think because it was LA market, that was a big deal. Whereas if it was a San Diego market, it wouldn't have been. Same with Toronto. That's a big city on the East Coast, where if it had been a Milwaukee, right? It's that's not, it's not as far east, obviously, but it's also just not a huge city by comparison. So
and you can argue that Shohei Ohtani is the largest American major sport global star. right? So when you think of like major leagues for American sports, we don't have like Kobe Bryant anymore, and then obviously you have soccer players that transcend globally, but you also had huge numbers because Otani is the biggest star in a U.S. market from a global perspective, right? So you get Japan tuning in.
I mean, yeah, the World Series MVP was a Japanese guy, right? Like Japan's going to watch this World Series. They have Otani and they have Yamamoto. Like, so it's an entire other country you're getting ratings from that you might not get if this were a team that had no Asian players.
The interesting thing. Sorry, the interesting thing for me was when I was reading this article, I'm pulling it back over now. It's like you're reading all these most watched MLB games since 2016, most watched series since 2014, and you're thinking like, oh yeah, that's because of the international market. But then the article says this does only includes the American market. So it's like I think this World Series had a crazy high amount of viewers, more than normal. And I get what you're saying about having the Dodgers versus the Padres. I was just trying to say that I think it's more about familiarity. If the Padres have been to like 2 or 3 World Series out of the last 4 years, then it's more about like, like not necessarily where you play, but as the public knows who you are type of thing. And the last thing I'll say is, as someone who goes downtown 6 days a week to work, the stadium and the Padres are like the only great thing about downtown San Diego. Otherwise, it's like really, really tough to be down there.
Yeah,
Walking to the stadium's amazing. I wasn't, I mean, huge. I loved baseball growing up and everything, but not as much as the other sports, and blah blah blah. But the Padres being downtown and walking to it is really nice. I think most cities should have that, but they
I heard
don't.
you have a good history of walking downtown in San Diego.
Well, coming from Krista's house, not so much.
yeah, and also, I mean, to your point, Mitch, like not just familiarity, but just like you get that buzz going. People love storylines like we've talked about. I'm curious to know if the ratings went up after Game 3, right? That Game 3 made a lot of news a lot of places because of how crazy it was and how many record-setting things happened. And then you got a Game 7. People are always more inclined to watch a Game 7. I know, like, I watched Game 3 and then I watched Game 7, right? Those are the games that I watched. And I'm a sports fan, but I didn't watch all the other games because I wasn't invested in either of these two teams the way I would have if I was. So it's like, I don't know, you probably have a lot more people that may have tuned in once it got to like, oh, this is a clinching game for Toronto who hasn't won in, 30 years or what have you. So
Also, to all of our San Diego viewers, don't crucify me, but there is a boatload of Dodger fans that live in San Diego that don't like the Padres and that are massive Dodger fans. I think I'm reading right now the top 5 biggest markets for the ratings were Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle, St. Louis, and Milwaukee for this finals or whatever. So San Diego watching the Dodgers play is quite interesting to me.
well, because
But yeah.
they are like you're right down the street, right? If you live in San
Yeah,
Diego, you're right down
definitely.
the road from them.
There's probably, I hate to say it, there's probably more Dodger fans in San Diego than there are Padre fans, but whatever.
I mean, that's would not be surprising to me considering that there are more Raider fans in Los Angeles than either of the Los Angeles teams.
Yeah, you could probably combine Charger and Ram fans and still have more Raider fans in LA, but that that's because they actually used to be there at least. All right, let's move on to football news. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. We will discuss a ton of trade stuff, but before we do that, I have just some general news and stuff from the week. Vinny, you and I kind of talked about this during the week. What do you guys think about all these ticky-tack QB hit penalties that are out there? I mean, I understand that player safety is important. Obviously, that's got to be a priority. But I really feel like we need to start trying to balance player safety with actually letting the guys play the game and make plays. There were a lot of hits that got flagged that quite frankly shouldn't have. And like obviously one of the glaring ones is going to be the hit on C.J. Stroud. It concussed him. He had to leave the game. He's going to miss this week as well with a concussion. And that sucks. And I hate that happened to him. But if you go watch that play, that defender is in his dive to make the tackle before C.J. Stroud starts to slide. What's he supposed to do? He's going in to make a tackle on a runner who's standing up. Are you just supposed to assume the quarterback's going to slide? Like, that's great until he doesn't, and then he runs past you. So what do you guys think about all the... I mean, there were a lot this week. That's just like one of the standout ones because you and I talked about it. What do you guys think about all these QB penalties? Is there anything they can do to try to fix this?
As long as the QBs aren't trying to milk it, we're not like as soccer does with some of their quote unquote flopping. You can legislate it out by just good officiating. I just hope, the NBA had a little bit of a flopping issue too. As long as if the QBs aren't flopping, I'm okay with protecting what makes good business. And like some of these, I'm trying to look, but some of these like usage rates and like guys usually are like for sure injured with these amount of touches, blah blah. These things in the last couple of years, it seems to have diluted that or slowed it down. So a lot of the rule changes, as much as people want to say it's not the NFL that we used to grow up and watch, it is having a profound effect on keeping their, business guys that sells tickets. You don't want a bunch of backup QBs and backup running backs headlining the game. So you definitely don't want load management to encroach in. So how do you avoid all that? Is you have to find a median. And I think legislating these hits. But again, as long as the QBs just play fair, just don't start milking it and trying to get away with stuff.
Well, I
I do
don't.
feel
I
like
don't think
that's,
CJ Stroud was milking it. To be fair, but
No, for sure.
I mean, I don't, at the risk of sounding like curmudgeon and old school, and is I think we can all agree that player safety is important. And because it's a business, they decided to go, err on the side of player safety. But the product has directly suffered because of it. And I'm not saying necessarily just from a QB standpoint. I'm also thinking how, hit on defenseless receivers across the middle, which like used to be celebrated. Now, anytime someone just gets absolutely destroyed, there's a penalty. It doesn't even need to be a penalty by definition. If someone gets absolutely destroyed in modern day football, it's a penalty. It doesn't need to be helmet to helmet. I mean, even though that's the definition. Alex, the hit on CJ Stroud, I texted you immediately. I was like, that 100% was not a penalty. The guy was already like, CJ Stroud was still like half up when he got hit. The guy was already going for the tackle when he started to slide. And I want to say there was somebody in the afternoon series of games, or maybe it was Jackson Dart. I can't remember who the. Yeah, thank you for showing this.
I've been showing it. I just realized that I wasn't sharing screen with you guys. But yeah, go ahead.
There's someone I think in the afternoon games or even later, maybe it was Dart. I can't remember, but it was even worse. Like it was even worse than the Stroud one, where he literally just got hit while trying to slide, but it was like starting to slide, and they threw a penalty, and I was like, wow, that's terrible. I understand it's a business. I understand player safety is important. I just think they just keep changing the rules on a business standpoint rather than a true sport standpoint, and it just makes it hard to really get behind, even though I understand it.
Well, what's interesting for me is like, was it 2016, 17, they did the crackback, or I know it's not called the crackback rule, but it was you're not allowed to hit the lineman, against their motion or whatever, right? And then just the other weekend, what's his name got penalized for the hip tackle drop or whatever, and you see that and you're like, wow, that was only a year removed from the NFL. You see some of these, and then the last one was like spearing, right, in 2021, where you can't like leave your feet to make the hit or whatever. You can't like go straight, you know what I mean? So it's like I think those three rules does make it look a little bit different than what we're used to watching for sure. What was it? I can't remember the game. It was on Sunday, but the guy did the hip tackle drop, and I was like, "Wow, that looks violent." And
Well,
that's only
to be fair to officials, like the hip drop tackle has resulted in more injuries than pretty much any other tackle, so that would make sense, right? Like,
right. The one where you go against the lineman, against their
yeah,
motion.
crackback block. I know what you're talking
Yeah, yeah, that one too makes sense too. And the spearing, I guess, or leaving your feet on a lot of these hits is that one made the defense look way different for me for a couple years. That took some adjusting. So I agree that it definitely doesn't look the same, but yeah, I don't know. Like these guys are each individuals and have their lives, and it's kind of tough. Like when you hear about Alex Smith and the stuff he's had to go through for the last 6 or 7 years and stuff like that, and it's just kind of like, hey, football's pretty violent. If you're erring on the side of safety, I'm not gonna complain
Yeah, but then they take it sometimes a step too far, like
for
the
sure.
Tom Brady rule, where
Yeah,
if you tackle a quarterback low in the pocket, it's a penalty.
and it's like half the time they're not trying to go. Like, no one's trying to go low. They're low because they got blocked down to the ground and they're trying to grab
Right.
the quarterback's legs because that's
Or
their
like
job.
or the
body
years where like
body weight
landing.
after they let go of the football. Let me tell you something.
Yeah,
You don't know if that guy's let go of the football, or like the ticky tack, like, oh, I tapped him in the helmet while he was trying to throw, and I'm just like,
Or my weight fell on his body. Like, I'm running at full speed, fighting against a 300-pound man who's trying to
Don't
stop
put your
me,
whole weight on them.
diving to make a tackle, and you want me to control my body weight in midair?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's a little tough. So I get what you're saying. It probably is a little bit over, and also it probably has to do with the amount of lawsuits that the NFL has consistently. So they have to make these rules.
Well, but like you said, I was just talking to a guy. I went golfing with a guy this week, and this is, I think, a prime example. He's like, we were talking about just different sporting events we've been to, and I was doting on Lambeau Field. I've talked about it on the pod before. Like, Lambeau Field is an NFL bucket list place to go. It's just an incredible experience, an incredible environment. But he was like, oh, yeah, I went to a game in Lambeau Field, and it was the Packers playing the Bears, and in the first series of the game, Aaron Rodgers breaks his collarbone, and then later in the game, Jay Cutler got hurt, and so I was just in Lambeau watching the Packers backup play the Bears backup, and it's it was one of the worst football games ever. And I get that's what you're protecting. Nobody wants to go and watch Aaron Rodgers' backup versus Jay Cutler's backup, or you know what I mean? You don't want to go to an NFL game. Imagine the Bills and Chiefs right now, and it's Mitch Trubisky versus Gardner Minshew. You'd be like, hell no, dog.
Hold on, I got to stop you right there. I get the Aaron Rodgers comparison, but which are you comparing, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes to Jay Cutler? I'd love to know for this example.
Neither.
Okay, because that was the comparison you gave. But yeah.
But no, I'm just saying, I get that you have to protect the superstar of the sport, and the whole point is you can watch a backup wide receiver and it's not going to be exciting, or a backup running back, it's not exciting. When the team loses the quarterback, the entire franchise goes down, the product goes down. So that's why I get that it's a business decision, but the spirit of the game sometimes is it's hard to really, really rally behind it when it's hits like that, or the ticky-tack stuff that does happen.
It goes in all sports, though. Even in basketball, for 15 years of my life, I watched Kobe get these calls. Austin Reeves does not get those same calls that Kobe gets. I promise you. From firsthand watching, a lot of these shooting guards do not get what I saw Kobe get for 15 years. So it's kind of blends in a lot of the sports that they're just going to protect their product.
Right, like I said, I'm all about player safety. I just think there needs to be some sort of discipline with hey, they actually have to be breaking a rule to get a flag. It can't just be, oh, well, they're going to get a flag just because that player got hurt. It sucks that Stroud got hurt. I hate it. The Texans started off poor, and now they've been one of the best teams over the last few weeks, and they even won the game with Davis Mills against a good Broncos team. I hate it for the Texans. I hate it for C.J. Stroud. Concussions are so dangerous, but, I played that play a few different times. That was not a penalty. But instead, the Texans ended up winning that game, I think. They ended up losing that game.
No, they lost.
And it's if that drive didn't get a free 15, that drive gets a 15-yard extension, and if that had been the difference in the game, we might be having a different conversation right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I just wanted to bring that up. Speaking of QB injuries, I guess we'll stay on the QB injury train. And this is going to be a hot take, so go ahead and get ready to roast me if you have to. Is Jaden Daniels just RG3 2.0?
Oh, God.
A guy who comes in, has a balling first season, looks like a world beater, then has some injury issues, and is just never relevant again. Bounces around as a backup a few places, but never catches that magic in a bottle again that he had his first season. Is that what we're seeing? For those who don't know, Jaden Daniels has not played well this year. He's been injured multiple times this year, but in the games he has played, he has not played well. And this most recent injury has him expected to be out most of the rest of the season. If he did come back, we're talking at least fantasy season, right? If he does come back, it'd be towards the end of the fantasy season. And the Redskins are all but eliminated from playoff contention anyway, so they're not going to be rushing him back. So is this me did we overreact to how good he was last year, or am I overreacting to what's going on this year? Is Jaden because let's face it, Jaden Daniels was not expected to be as good as he was, and he was great. But then this year, he has not looked great, and he's got these injuries, and I'm just flashing back to RG3 and how good he was that first year, and then what happened? So is he RG3 2.0? Or am I overreacting?
I have a feeling that we're going to agree, or at least have very similar opinions.
Oh, I couldn't sell this any harder. The difference is one's a world-class sprinter and the other one is a world-class athlete. Uh, RG3 was just like the fastest dude, and actually could have ran Olympic times and was a track star. The other one actually can play the QB position. Now, if we're talking injuries, then I don't know how much he'll be able to stay upright because we had the same concern even before he ever played an NFL snap that where it's just like you just got to keep him from getting hit. He doesn't really run designed runs. I mean, he does, but at the same time, a lot of his runs come from scrambles on plays. So like he actually knows. Whereas like RG3 was that RPO that they just had him actually designed runs all the time because they wanted to utilize his speed. No, as long as he can be healthy, this is a completely different QB than RG3.
Well, I was wrong. I thought we would agree more. Um, I was just gonna say I don't. I think that's too big of a leap. I don't think he's RG3. I think he's much more talented at the QB position. He was drafted higher than RG3, a better prospect, a Heisman Trophy winner. But I would be remiss to not mention like this was the concern about Jane Daniels coming out of college. This was the concern this year from a fantasy perspective. Do I take Jane Daniels because like we're not sure if he can sustain with his body type and his play style. So I don't think I I can't say that it's I think it's a non-zero chance that he could go an RG3 route career wise, but I would disagree that he falls that far. I just also think this
For
is
me,
what scares
yeah,
people about Jaden Daniels is like he is going to be injury prone. Mitch, you mentioned the reason I thought we were going to agree is like you mentioned his injury proneness
yeah.
or injury concerns, but the other thing that you mentioned that I thought maybe you would say is teams catch up. It takes one season usually for teams to catch up on these guys. It happened to Lamar. Lamar ended up changing kind of his play style and his game to then become a perennial MVP candidate. But we were all concerned like year two was probably not going to be very good for Jane Daniels because the league will figure him out and then he needs to change his game. And if he doesn't change his game, then he's not relevant anymore.
So I agree in the sense, but I'm just saying like the RG3's game was dependent on him being able to run. If Daniels can't run for the rest of his career or whatever because it's an injury liability, then it's kind of like Tua, where you're still going to be able to start somewhere. Robert Griffin can't start somewhere if he can't run. Like Tua at least can be accurate if he can't run ever or whatever or scramble. Jaden might be the same. He's a very accurate QB and at least knows the game. But will he be an elite QB because he can't run? No, of course not. But he'll be able to start somewhere in the league as whereas RG3 is going to be was completely out and irrelevant. That's what I meant as the biggest difference.
Well,
Is
I mean,
like
to defend myself, let me give you some stats, right? So this is Jaden
yeah,
Daniels' rookie year. He played 17 games, completed 69% of his passes for 3,500 yards, 25 TDs, and 9 picks.
yeah.
RG3 only started 15 games because he started behind Cousins, but he only started 15 games. He had 66% completion, 3,200 yards, 20 TDs, and only 5 picks. So he was effectively just as accurate. If he had played the same number of games, he would have had the same number of yards. He had roughly the same TDs. He had half the interceptions. How much rushing did they do? He had 120 carries for 815 yards. How much rushing did Jaden do? 148 for 891 yards. So he actually ran the ball more in his rookie year. So if you just look at rookie year numbers, they're the exact same guy. Now I get what you're saying about long-term prospects, where they were coming out of the draft and all that. I'm not arguing that, but I'm saying if you just look at their rookie year numbers, this was the same player. And if you
Yeah.
look at what's happening in season two, RG3 had a better year too than Jade Daniels is having. Just saying. So
Yeah, the other thing I would like to say is like when RG3 played his rookie year, he was like 22 years old, 21 years old. Jaden is already 26, 27, right? Let me, how old is Jaden? Jaden Daniels' age. He's 24, 25. Okay, so it's not too much of it. It is a bit 3, 4 more years older to where it's like you would hope guys a little bit older would be more able to play the QB a little bit more cerebral. But the amount of rushing that he did is a little concerning. I would be concerned with how many of the Washington plays are designed runs for him and how many are him scrambling, and that would be, I think, my biggest indicator. But I guess on the eye test, Alex, you're right. Statistically, it does look a little bit more similar, alarming than I would like it to. But I guess just from the eye test, RG3 was predicated on the run, whereas Daniels runs to be an elite QB. He's not predicated. He doesn't need the run. That's all, I guess.
I mean, but yeah, based on that rookie year, he didn't and even his third year before he got hurt, he was completing 69% of his passes, right? Which was the rookie record that he set last year. Like, so RG3 was on pace for that rookie record in his third season before he got hurt, and he didn't get it. Like he had an injury his second year, and then an injury his third year, and that's when Washington got rid of him. But
that's why he couldn't really come back from that injury, whereas because he couldn't run.
Right, and we're talking about Jaden Daniels is now on his second injury. I mean, they both happened in the same year, but it is a second injury already. So
I wonder how much we'd be comparing to if it wasn't both in a Commander's uniform.
Well, yeah, I mean it's the natural comparison because it's the same team, right? Like, yeah, for sure.
I think I have more faith. I guess you're right. It does alarmingly look more similar than it should. I guess I just have more faith in Daniels, but I could be wrong.
No, and that's fine. And again, keep in mind, all the times when I ask these questions, it's not always because I believe my answer. It's because it's good content. So.
But I do think if there's two quick pivots off of this, is one kind of sticking on the Commanders and with his injury. We talked a lot about extending Terry McLaurin in the podcast earlier, and how Washington was kind of all in on this season, and they did some really bad contracts with Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. You talked about some of the other signings they have. Pretty interesting that now they're dealing with this. Like, I don't know. Like last year, I thought they for sure overshot their actual talent by making it to the NFC Championship, but like you can't help but like giggle just a little bit at like, oh, same old Washington.
Yeah, well, I think we all expected them to take a step back, but like, look, to be fair, like your quarterback gets hurt twice. Terry McLaurin has missed effectively the entire season, so like, yeah, it looks like a bad contract right now because he didn't play, right? Like if Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels were both healthy, we might be having a very different conversation about this team.
Also, I like how it's a little casual. NFC Championship as a rookie, and by the way, they lost to what might be an Eagles team that's in the middle of their dynasty right now. So it's not to be taken lightly what they did last year. So I think maybe they did think they were all in more than they thought, but yeah, they were definitely close.
Well, and like we talked about, you have to go all in when your quarterback's on their rookie deal. That's when you go all in, right? Yeah. So I don't blame them for going all in. I was in favor of giving McLaurin the deal. It just hasn't worked out. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Moving on to other... Whoops, not what I meant to click on. Moving on to other quarterback... Not news, but just quarterback conversation. Another one has an injury history. We're not sure what they have in him. J.J. McCarthy. So for those who don't know, J.J. McCarthy had his first good game as an NFL player by going out last week on Sunday Night Football and getting the dub. Chris Collinsworth... an announcer that a lot of people think says some weird stuff, once again said something that just really got to me. He said, quote, J.J. McCarthy just needed a chance to sit back and watch because the NFL's faster than it is in college, and now he looks like the guy he was at Michigan again. Okay, first of all, he wasn't that good at Michigan, so I don't know that that's the goalpost we want to be looking at. Second, he's been in the NFL now for 27 games, and he's only played 3 of them. If there was anyone who didn't need to sit on the bench and watch from the sideline, it was J.J. McCarthy. He had done enough of that already. He just needs to play. And now people are like, oh man, see, we were right. He's the guy, blah, blah, blah. He's played in 3 games. He was bad in 2 of them. He was good in 1 of them. Let's not crown him yet, okay? I still think they would love to have Darnold even after that big game because you know what Darnold went out and did in the first half this week? Oh, just casually completed 16 of 16 for 4 TDs. But that's cool. They have J.J. But yeah, what do you guys think? So now that we've seen McCarthy actually have a good game, do you feel better about the Viking situation from a fantasy standpoint? Or do you think this was just one game and you need to see more?
Yeah, definitely need to see more. And it's also interesting that it's like we just had the conversation about the quarterback who needs to run to predicate it versus a quarterback who uses the run to be elite. And McCarthy, if he can't run one day, he's in big trouble because he can't throw.
Yeah, that's what they did in Michigan. They ran the ball. So
And not just that, but like even on the ones he completed, he's way out of the pocket. It's not even like a little bit out of the pocket. Mahomes used to do this thing for years where he'd back so far up that because he would put pressure on the edge guys. Like McCarthy thinks he's doing something like that, but then he's never in the pocket. He's so far back, so far outside. It's really weird to watch him play. The only thing like that has going for it is Kevin O'Connell. If they didn't have, in my opinion, one of the best. I don't know if he's one of the best head coaches or whatever. He seems to be doing a job, but he's, in my opinion, one of the best people who, if you had a fantasy QB or you had a new person coming in, you would want him to be your guy. You know what I mean? There's only a couple other guys that are in this conversation. So there's no excuse. You have a great line, you have a serviceable defense, and you have receivers, and you have the play caller. So if you can't do well now, I don't know when anyone in the NFL can trust you. And so yeah, I'm gonna let this play out, and maybe he's still developing. I'm not speaking on what Collinsworth said, not trying to give him any credit for that comment, but there could be some kind of, I don't know, I didn't play professional sports. There could be some kind of acclimation. I know, my first year at varsity or whatever, it was everything seemed fast, and after the games went by, somewhere in the middle of the season, it did seem to get a little bit better for me. So maybe this could be just like there is no substitute for actual real experience or whatever that cliche is, and maybe they will get better. But you're right, Alex. I'll go back to this. I'm rambling, but the beginning of the season, I said, is there a world where McCarthy is better than Darnold? Well, that is not the world we live in.
no, not even close.
Stamp on that.
And I want to point out the good game that everyone's like all the Vikings fans are trying to celebrate. He was 14 of 25 for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. That's actually worse than his first game.
If you look at all of his, it looks to be scripted the exact same. He's getting 23 to 25 attempts. He's getting like 7 rushing, and then everything else is just rushing attempts. So like I think O'Connell's not letting him throw more than 25. He won't let him.
Yeah, I can't jump on board and say that JJ McCarthy has arrived. I think the Vikings as a team going into Detroit and beating the Lions should be celebrated as a huge deal, especially with JJ McCarthy at quarterback. But like Jahmyr Gibbs had like 28 total yards or something like that. Like their defense was, I think they had like 60 rushing yards. Is the best rushing football team maybe in the history of the sport, just based on what they've been able to do for like 3 years in a row with their two-headed monster. Yeah, dude, the stats don't lie. Like JJ McCarthy is not necessarily good at this point. Now, can he still get there? Yes, he's only 22 years old. He came out early. He's young. Got O'Connell grooming him, but I would probably say at this point we're having a similar discussion about JJ McCarthy as we did for Anthony Richardson versus talking about him like we talk about Bo Nix or other draft class mates from his class.
Yeah, McCarthy and Richardson are 2 examples of guys who might just float around the league for like 3 or 4 years and then become a starter. When then you're like, man, how old are they? And you're like, well, he's only 28 years old. And you're like, oh wow, yeah. So I could definitely see one of those, that type of thing.
All right, and then moving on, one more bit of QB news before we move on to the trade talk. Let's talk about everyone's favorite, Kyler Murray. So last week, going into the game, it was announced that he was, quote, healthy enough to play, but he's still not going to start. They're like, oh, maybe they want him as an emergency QB or whatever. Jacoby Brissett goes out there, wins yet another game. And then, coming into the week, on Tuesday, they announced Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starter for next week. Does this mean Murray's getting benched? What's going on? And now, all of a sudden, today, Murray is placed on IR. This is a guy who's been injured and not playing for weeks, but was not on IR, has now been put on IR, and the recovery time is expected to be 4 to 8 weeks if there are going to be any setbacks. And a great quote I heard this week was, yeah, that setback is Jacoby Brissett playing well. So, what do you guys think? Is Murray just done in Arizona? Is this the end of the Kyler Murray experiment out there?
I think it has to be. We touched on it, I think, a little bit last week or the week before.
Yeah, when Miles was here, yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard... he's not a Gannon guy. Like, he's not anybody in that franchise's current guy, as far as, like, a coaching standpoint. Like, it was just, this is what they have. they're realizing that Brissett can run the offense that Petzik can run. That they're actually competitive without Kyler, and I think I agree with you. I think it's very fishy that they are putting him in IR, saying it could take 4 to 8 weeks. All the talk is, oh, he's our starter when he comes back. I really think they're just trying to soft launch him into not being on the Cardinals moving forward. And the discussion with Kyler and his team is, hey, listen, we're not going to like shade you by benching you. If we're not competitive at the end of the year, we'll start you. But I just don't think Kyler is it moving forward. I think they're just doing this to keep whatever value he has afloat.
Yeah, I mean, this absolutely had we've talked about the show on the air before, Playmakers. It absolutely had the Playmakers vibe of he's not a Pro Bowl caliber player, but in Playmakers there was a Pro Bowl caliber player that the team did not like, and they wanted to move on from him, so they put him on IR, so they didn't have to reveal that they're just benching him. So that's what they did. And I feel like that's what they're doing here is like, well, we're going to bench you anyway. Let's put you on IR. And then if Jacoby Brissett continues to play well, we just keep you out the rest of the season. We move on. If he doesn't play well, then we can bring you back off IR and act like it was because you were injured.
The thing that gets me is they trap themselves by saying rehabilitating the injury that he suffered earlier in the year. Because I agree with you or what you're saying on everything, Alex. On Sunday or Saturday night or whatever, they're like, Murray's our guy, and he's healthy. So there was no issue. That's what he literally said on Saturday night or Friday night, whatever, in his interview. So it's like, I don't understand now. It's like, oh, now we're going to place him on IR to get it healthier. It's like, no, you guys moved on to Brissett and just want to save face by putting him on IR. I agree with everything you said, Alex. The other thing is, like, as a person who has been wrong about Murray plenty of times, I don't know that the organization's handled him at all correctly. So I cannot sit here and what's the wrong way to handle him, and then that's the answer of what they're going to go going forward with him. Because I don't think it's been. You cannot get. Vinny said you're going to hold him for value. What value? No one's going to take any value for him right now. They'll just wait a year or a year and a half and get him in free agency. So. Or you'll get him, next to nothing next year when you haven't played him for 8 games or 16 games already. So
For clarity, I don't think it's value for the Cardinals. It's more of a respect of value for Kyler.
Gotcha.
Hey, this is how we're playing the situation. And whether they're upfront with him and telling him that, but just like, you bench Kyler Murray, like he's probably untouchable moving forward, right? If he's healthy and you just bench him for Jacoby Brissett. But if you play this game, you give maybe him a fair shot to earn a role somewhere else.
So, where did he go to college again? Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they almost compete for a national? I'm trying to remember. It just reminds me of one of those guys who is probably the best player. This dude was drafted 9th or 10th overall in the MLB draft. Like that does not happen. That does not happen in any for any athlete. He's one of a kind. He's been drafted top 10 in 2 different pro sports. This guy's probably been the best athlete every team he's ever been on at every level. And then he gets to the Cardinals and he's just relying on the talent, and he's probably, I know there's a lot of meta gaming or whatever you want to call it, but it just seems to be that old where it's like you have because he makes plays that you see on Sunday that's like there's only a handful of QBs that can make that Kyler Murray play right there. And then he's just so pedestrian other times and just so average consistently or inconsistently. He needs to be more consistently average, I guess. So what I'm just trying to say, it just reminds me of like I don't think there is another player who's been drafted in the first round of baseball and the first round of the NFL, and was both top 10. The other thing that's interesting to me is like I don't know the state of mind of Murray, but let's say you do get benched this year, and then next year you don't get traded and you're benched. You're going to be 27, 28 years old, and the Brewers own your rights. You could just walk to go play pro baseball. Is there any chance that Murray is not even in football in a year or two?
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even really considered that, but I think there's a chance.
I mean, I think he goes somewhere. There's going to be someone that gives him a chance, but I mean, maybe he's the guy who ends up being a backup somewhere, right? Like, think about... I'm not trying to compare him to Cam Newton. He's not in the same ballpark, but like Cam Newton had a shorter career as well, and he ended up getting a chance to start a couple other places, like with New England. Teams that were basically just out of it and had no chance, but needed a guy that had been there before. They wanted a veteran. So there might be a team out there who's willing to give him a chance as a veteran and see what happens. Like, look at what happened with Baker. Baker bounced, Mayfield bounced around a bunch of places, and he's getting ready to sign what could be one of the biggest contracts ever. So, and again, I don't think Kyler has that that kind of projection, but you never know, right? When people leave bad franchises and go to better ones, things can happen. So I think he'll get a shot somewhere, but he'll be on a much shorter leash than the Cardinals gave him, because the Cardinals gave him a long leash.
Think about how talented you are as an individual, to where you, in 2018, you get drafted 9th overall to the Oakland Athletics. And after being drafted 9th overall in the MLB, you decide to come back to play for the University of Oklahoma football. You play that year, win a Heisman Trophy, and then get drafted number 1 overall the next, and 3 months later in the NFL draft. You got drafted 9th overall in the MLB. In the same year, you got drafted 1 overall in the MLB and won the Heisman. I don't think this dude's going to play backup anywhere. At all. I don't think the thought of backups even entered his mind ever.
Right, but reality exists, right? Like, you can have one thing in your head, and you might say, hey, I'm not going to sign anywhere that won't let me start. And then when you realize that no one's going to give you the opportunity, now you're faced with, okay, I can still make $3 million as a backup, or I can just be done with football. And, I think that's when people have to face that reality. Most of them do not. Now, look, some of them don't handle it well, and quite frankly, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would, based on reports we've heard. But I don't know. I just don't think someone's going. Historically, no one goes from being a starting NFL quarterback for multiple seasons to completely out of the league. That's just not a normal track record outside of injury or retirement, right? If a team moves on, usually that player goes somewhere else and tries somewhere else.
Yeah. That's true.
Before we transition, I did have one brief quarterback conversation, since we've talked about young quarterbacks.
Nice. Okay. Let's hear it.
I had seen kind of recently, while scrolling on the internet, some what may or may not be true conversations about the Chicago Bears draft process when they took Caleb Williams.
Oh, no.
Scrub Williams?
And so you can even Google like Ryan Poles, Drake May, but there's a lot coming out, and it's according to anonymous sources, which you always feel like whatever, that they did not even consider Drake May or Jaden Daniels seriously at any point during the conversation, to the point when they were scouting Drake May, the reports are they made low light film of him and laughed at all of the low lights and interceptions and fumbles and bad throws without ever really scouting him or giving him a fair shake. And they literally, the reports are saying it was just like a mockery and how unprofessional it was. Like the GM was fast forwarding and rewinding plays to show Drake May's low lights and literally laughing him out of the room and saying things like, "I'm glad we're not drafting that guy." And then, they never really took their eyes off Caleb Williams. And the sources kind of go on to say that while they didn't say that, they just, they didn't really give Jaden Daniels a real look, and that it was a very impartial scouting to draft Caleb Williams. And I know he was kind of the number one favorite overall, and in hindsight it's a lot easier, but it's just kind of a wild report that just goes to show how bad of an organization the Bears might actually be.
Well, not only that, look, sure, last week he played well and barely beat the Bengals, right, who have probably the worst defenses of all time, going for the Carolina's record. Look at the teams he's played before that. Raiders, Commanders, Saints, and Ravens. 4 teams who have bad defenses this year. And against those 4 teams, he threw for 2 TDs, but 3 interceptions. Now, he did get 3 of the wins, but it wasn't because of him, right? He had the game against Baltimore was a loss where he threw for 280 yards. All the other games was 250 or less. He hasn't played well, the last few weeks. Now, on the season, his stats look fine, but what have you done for me lately? If you look at the last 5 weeks, he's got 5 TDs and 3 picks, and most of those TDs came against the hapless Bengals, right? So, I don't know. It's wild to me to hear that, they didn't want to evaluate other talent when they had that pick. Like, you're making a franchise-altering decision, and you're not. I'm not saying they might not have still made this pick, but like to not give the other guys a legitimate shake, just seems like a terrible front office decision making. Especially when you see how well Drake May is playing this season, how well Jaden Daniels played last season before getting hurt. Like, Jaden Daniels right now has 8 touchdowns and 2 picks to the 12 touchdowns and 4 picks that Caleb Williams has. Jaden Daniels has only played half the games Caleb Williams has. Right? So if you double those stats, you're looking at 16 and 4. Like, and I don't know what the yardage total would be, but I think he's like 800, so the yardage would be around 18. So maybe Caleb has a little more yardage, but I mean, and the completion percentage is definitely higher. So yeah, I just that if that's true, that's a crazy story.
Yeah, I agree. And then maybe it's kind of similar to like fantasy football. Like, you're not gonna not put Saquon Barkley number 1 overall after a 2,000-yard season, his historic season. And it's just one of those things where I can't imagine having the gall, like as hyped up as Caleb Williams was coming out of college. And that team did lose a lot his senior year because he had an atrocious last year at USC. But I can't imagine taking May or Daniels over Caleb. But like, you would think at that level of sports, you're at least making sure that you're drafting the right guy. And it doesn't sound like they did that.
I mean, have they never watched the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner?
Where he gets both his guys with some of the most outrageous draft picks, draft day, like draft trades of all time. But I understand what you're saying.
I'm not saying it based on true story, but just like the amount of due diligence he did about the number 1 overall pick. If you haven't seen the movie Draft Day, it is not based on a true story. I'll tell you that from the jump. But it is super entertaining, and it's about the NFL draft, obviously, and doing evaluation about the number 1 overall pick being a windmill slam quarterback, which is what Caleb Williams was thought to be. But yeah, that's interesting. Any other things you guys want to discuss before we go into trade talks? Either Vinny or Mitch, anything you guys want to talk about?
I'm good.
Good.
All right, well then let's get into it, boys and girls. As I mentioned, the trade deadline was yesterday, and a lot of players on the move. Now, most of them were defensive players, so not necessarily as much big fantasy impact overall for that. But there were a couple of offensive guys that moved, so we'll talk about those, and we'll all talk about the more important ones, at least the ones that I think are more important, then you guys can bring up any that you guys think are important. So the first one, obviously, I think the biggest trade out there for sure, Cowboys needed help on defense, so what do? They went and got a linebacker from the Bengals, because if there's one way to improve your defense, it's to take players from the Cincinnati Bengals. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Does anyone feel like that's just like 2 guys who are like terrible trading with each other? Like, it improves nothing. It's like
to make it even worse, to a guy who got traded and requested a trade because he was benched in favor of a rookie. So not only are you on the worst defense in the league, you were benched on the worst defense in the league.
Yeah, I mean, now, to be fair to the Cowboys, they actually acquired like multiple other defensive players, some of them even good ones. But I just thought that was funny. That was one of the first trades announced yesterday. And it's like the Cowboys, who need help desperately on defense, went to the Bengals to find a linebacker? Like, oh, guys, what are you doing here? So, yeah, not a lot to talk about that. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's get to some real trades. The Jets had a fire sale. The Jets were giving up everybody, and they have loaded up on picks for draft picks moving forward. So they're definitely in a rebuild. One of the biggest things, though, was Breece Hall, someone who everyone kind of thought would be moved, especially Mitch. He's been banging that drum that Hall was going to be moved for a long time. He didn't end up getting moved. Did you guys hear what happened?
I heard that the Chiefs offered a 4th-round pick, and the Jets wouldn't budge, but I'm not sure.
So, according to reports, the Chiefs did want him. They offered a 4th-round pick. Jets wanted a 3rd. Neither team was willing to move off that, and so the trade didn't happen. So we were 1 round pick away from having Breece Hall join the Chiefs this season, which I am surprised. If that's true, I am surprised the Chiefs didn't make that move. The Chiefs are so bad at running back, and they're so good everywhere else. I feel like bringing in a Breece Hall just makes that dynasty even more secure. So the fact that it was all over, like, and again, I don't know if that's true or not, but
imagine
allegedly,
if you're Breece Hall.
Yeah. Oh, and
Yeah.
man, talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about Brees. Like you, when you find this out, you're like, wait, I could be contending for a Super Bowl this
Like,
season,
can I get some,
but
can we
instead
get a
I'm still a
third team in
Jet.
here to get cut some of the mitigating costs? Like, how do we just meet, guys? How do we just meet a little bit closer?
Instead of me going to a better team, I'm now on a worse team because we've gotten rid of all of our defense.
It's not just that, but you could win a Super Bowl X amount of times in the next three,
Yeah.
4 years. It's like, oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
do think, it's weird. Like we talk about this, the value of draft picks in the NFL never really seems to make sense to me sometimes. Like you have these maybe it's just that the window in the NFL is so small, right? Like most players only have like a 3-year prime. But I think what's interesting is I think Brees Hall's contract and being a guy who's on an expiring contract this year and bound for free agency changes things. I'm more surprised that the Jets didn't take the 4th round pick. It just kind of says that maybe they want to re-sign him and they want to pay him, which for any Brees Hall owner in leagues like dynasty leagues, I'm sorry, that just sucks because I do think he's highly talented.
Well, he's only on year 3 right now, right? So they get him for one more year on a rookie deal.
No, I believe his rookie deal is up because I think first, if I don't quote me on this, but I think that first round draft picks have 4 years with a 5th year option, and second round draft picks have 3 years with a 4-year option.
But
But
he's signed, right?
He is a free agent next year. Oh, this is his 4th year. Wow. Okay.
Oh, that's yeah. So this is So he's an unrestricted free agent next year. Okay, that makes more sense then.
So then the Chiefs are probably like, the Chiefs want him. They know they can make a Super Bowl run with him this year, but giving up a third, I don't know if they re-sign him to like a $10 million a year contract.
Which and then then to your point, I'm surprised the Jets don't make that trade then if you know that he's not coming back.
Also, just to throw it out there, the locked in that you have to pay a third round running back is between $5 and $6.5 million. So probably if you take a third round running back, it probably won't be that much of a difference in money wise, right?
Right, but his contract's expiring, so
What's he
I thought
gonna
they were gonna have a
resign
year
for?
left. So
What's he gonna resign for? It's my question. How much per year? He's not gonna be above
I
that.
think he's probably going to ask for 10 to 12 million a year.
No way. Running back, maybe you think so? Contract 2025. Because like that would place him. Alvin Kamara and James Cook make 12, and James Cook just signed. So Jonathan Taylor.
right,
makes
and I would
14.
argue that Brees Hall's been as successful as James Cook. James Cook's had one really great year. Brees Hall's had one really great year, and then this year's playing well.
And if I think you just understand, like, I think that's the ask. I think Brees Hall, and when you look at his like pre-draft process, like the dude is super, super talented.
Christian McCaffrey's getting
terrible,
9.
terrible team.
Montgomery's getting 9. Barkley's getting 9. Pollard from the Titans because he just signed 9. Henry 9. Swift 9. Mixon 10.
Right,
Kamara
and
10.
contracts usually go up over time, not down, right? So like if all these guys are getting 9, it's
Right,
realistic
so
that he could.
if you draft a third round running back and you have to lock in between 5.5 and 6.5, we're talking about 4 million here a year, right? That's what I'm
right, but I don't know how much cap space the Chiefs are going to have, right? So
yeah, that's true. And then also to your guys' point, to show you, third round running backs in the last 5 years include Elijah Mitchell, David Montgomery, James Conner, Devin Singletary, Kareem Hunt, Kenyon Drake, Alvin Kamara, etc. So a third round running back could potentially be a Brees Hall type or better.
Could be an RJ Harvey, you never know.
RJ Harvey did not make it to the third. He was he was not a day 3 running back. He was drafted in the second. Yeah.
So,
But yeah, going back to the Jets as well, and Brees Hall, the fact that Brees Hall didn't get traded after that's all I had been reading for a month is wild to me. It's just like, and then on top of that, the guy who I think is impossible to replace, the most impossible to replace person on that Jets team is Quincy Williams. And the funniest part is like, Jerry Jones the day before was like, we have a trade, but I'm just gonna tease it for you guys. I'm like, what are NFL owners teasing trades? This is gonna be such a garbage trade. And I wake up the next day and it's Q Williams, who is top 7 interior, huge grab. Like he's not a sexy name, you know what I mean? Like maybe Garrett Wilson or whatever was, but. man, did the Cowboys do extremely well grabbing Quincy Williams? And why would you let go of that guy? You need to go into the draft. You need to have a top 10 pick to get a guy like him. Like you're gonna have to pick in the top 10 and just replace him or whatever. So why would you trade him in the first place? I don't understand why guys like Q. It's probably because like the Jets wanted more assets and they weren't getting anything for any of their other players, and people were just like, we don't think. I mean, they did for Gardner, but like how you get rid of Williams makes zero sense to me. That is mind-boggling. If I was a Jets fans, that's the type of thing that's unforgivable in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, they had a fire sale. They loaded up on players, or loaded up on draft picks, rather. Speaking of, let's go to the next one. They dealt Sauce Gardner, who just signed a big deal, to the Colts for not one, but 2 first-round draft picks, which really means, we talked about this last week, the Colts are all in on re-signing Danny Dimes now. Now that you've given up 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner, you were saying, we're not in the market for a quarterback. This is our guy. So they better re-sign him. Which is ironic because the timing is right after his worst game of the season.
It's crazy too. They picked up most of the cap on this one. Sauce Gardner is the highest paid corner in the league, and they didn't even make the Jets eat some of it for the first year or two. Like basically saying, "Oh, it's a bad deal for you guys. You're gonna have to eat some of it." But they picked it up pretty much in full. So this one is the Colts saying we can win now, 100%.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting trade for sure. It is all in on Danny Dimes. I think Mitch is spot on though. Like the Jets they picked up 3 first rounds and a second round by dealing Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. But like that, I don't think Sauce has been as good this year. I've seen him get cooked a lot, but again, it's really hard to gauge like anybody's true value on the freaking Jets as bad as they are. But man, good for the Colts. Like I saw that and I was like, dang, that is a big time trade.
Yeah.
To really shore, I mean, arguably one of the top 5 corners in the league. And I know you give up 2 first-round draft picks, but Alex, you're right. Like that's the Colts saying, "Hey, we have the team in place right now with the contracts in place right now that we are going to make a run this year. We're going to make a run next year, and we're going to make a run the year after." So it's pretty interesting. And I think if you look at their team build, I'm sure people are going to want more money, but I don't know how many big contracts they need to pay out over the next couple of years aside from Danny Dimes.
Oh, the Colts are doing fine in cap space. They're fine. Well, the Jets are now doing even better in cap space. They went to. I know I texted you guys earlier this, but I'll say it on the pod. They just became next year. They'll be the third best team with the most cap space. Now, what you do with that matters, obviously, but having cap space is the beginning. Beginning foundation to actually building a championship team. So there is that.
I mean, you say that, but as a Raider fan who have the second most cap space, I can tell you that doesn't always work out.
Dude, we've had like the second most cap space like 3 years in a row, and I'm always waiting for the Raiders to make that big splash signing, and it just doesn't happen. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Speaking of Raiders fan, did you Glazer was on the Dan Patrick show, and he says a lot of times he gets used as like a liaison between teams. Like, so the Q Williams thing was going on. He knew about it, but he wasn't sure. So like a team will be like, we don't want to ask the Jets, is Q available for trade? We want to know, we want you to ask. So they had to tell Glazer to go ask the Jets, hey, are you guys interested in trading Q to anyone? So then that team has no information. You can start from the bottom rather than just keep driving up the price. And Jay Glazer said on the Dan Patrick show, do you know how many times I had to be liaison for, oh my gosh, what's his name? The linebacker for the Raiders.
Crosby?
Crosby. He's like, do you know how many phone calls I had to take by NFL owners to ask me, is Max Crosby available? And every time I do my diligence, I call up the Raiders organization. I go, hey, Max Crosby's not available, is he? And I get a no, Max won't let us trade him. That's what he said.
Attaboy, Max.
That's what he said on the DP show. And then Dan was like, wait, what do you mean? He goes, oh, well, and he like tries to backtrack him back, and he's like, well, I guess some people are just interested in performing well, making good money, and are extremely loyal guys or whatever. You know what I mean? And he's had to like backtrack really hard. I suggest listening to it. But apparently, 30 NFL teams called into the Raiders and were like, we just want you to ask on the availability of one guy.
So who do you guys?
That's how good this guy is.
That's a trivia question then. Who's the one team that didn't call? Because there's 32 teams, right? So the Raiders obviously don't call themselves. So
I don't know if he meant it
if
seriously,
30
but he was
call,
just
who's the one team
yeah.
that's like, nah, man, we don't want that guy.
The
Probably,
team with
probably the
Miles
Browns.
Garrett. Yeah, the Browns with Miles Garrett are like, we're good. We're so good.
They're like, yo, we can't have like one win and pay $100 million
To
between
two ends.
I
Yeah.
don't know, man. If the quarterback never gets a pass off, you're gonna win a lot of games
But
that way.
the
Uh,
point of this was like, imagine, sorry to get off topic, bring it to Crosby, but like, if you were Crosby, you probably could have picked a team to go to. And by the way, there are some good teams looking for some defensive players that have used your services. So, man, he just wants to be a Raider, apparently.
Good, because we need him. Well, we got nothing else going for us. I remember that game we went to last year. Most teams introduced their offense to get big pops. We introduced our defensive players one at a time to get a big pop because he was the only player that anyone was going to pop to in that stadium. You brought up the
Yeah.
Raiders, so we'll keep it there and we'll go to a potentially fantasy relevant trade as the Raiders have decided, you know what, we don't need our best wide receiver. Let's go ahead and ship him. And we trade Jacoby Myers, who quite frankly we couldn't find a way to use him this year anyway for some reason. Traded him off to the Jags. Uh, Obviously, and the Jags have already said they're thinking about, or not thinking about, they would like to try to re-sign him moving forward. So, what do you guys think this does to the long-term fantasy implications of guys like Parker Washington and more so Travis Hunter? They have a lot of injuries on the wide receiver side this year. Washington's kind of made a big step up recently, and they've already announced he will stay in the slot, which is interesting because that's where Jacoby Myers normally plays. So what do you guys think? I mean, I know Hunter's out for a few weeks, but now that Jacoby Myers is there with Brian Thomas Jr., if they do try to sign him long term, does that make Travis Hunter go to the wide receiver 3? Or is this like telling that they're not believing in him long term, or what do you guys think?
I I think this is probably one of my favorite trades for both teams that occurred. Um, Mainly because I think it's great value for the Raiders, even though it's only a fourth round pick and a sixth round pick. It's a guy that wanted more money that they weren't going to re-sign, and Jacksonville needs a wide receiver. I don't know. I think from a fantasy value standpoint, it's going to be super intriguing because Trevor Lawrence has had success with like the Christian Kirk type roles, like these guys who can play outside, but then are more of a slot player versus a downfield player, and the downfield player being Brian Thomas, who I think just doesn't pair well with Trevor Lawrence. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is that great. I think it's just not a good match for either one of them. I don't know what it does for Travis Hunter, but I think that Jacoby Myers becomes instantly fantasy relevant. I really do. I think he might be the wide receiver to own on this offense.
Huh. I'm wondering if it's just like schematically they needed a wide receiver to actually pose a threat, as opposed to, at least occupy part of the other side of the field. I'm not sure. I'm not. I haven't made up my mind on this one, so I'll just politely say like I don't have an opinion on this one. I don't know why the Raiders. I mean, I get why the Raiders. Sorry, I know why the Raiders traded Jacoby Myers because you're getting value out of any player that has value on your team right now because you're obviously rebuilding and you're trying to do it all at once. But at the same time, I don't know why the Jaguars would need Myers. Like, and out of all the wide receivers, you could probably tested the market with is taking the Raiders, Jacoby Myers. I don't know how this. Maybe this is like one of those football moves where it's like he's just a better football player, guy in the locker. I don't know. It's one of those things, but I don't think that changes really much at all in Jacksonville. I could be wrong. Like, what do you think his usage rate's going to be on Sunday? How many percentage of the snaps?
Well, I mean,
I think he's a starter.
his first week
I
on the
think he's
team
an
might be a little lower, but yeah, I
85%.
think once he's been established with the team, I think it's a different answer, right? Like he
Sure.
just got traded on Tuesday. They have a game on Sunday. Like
Okay, in 3 Sundays from now, what is his percent of snap counts?
I think it's pretty high because you'll still have
Okay.
Travis Hunter out, right?
Yeah.
So, and Brian Thomas is also nursing an injury, so you never know.
I also think, I mean, Travis Hunter by some people that I really like graded out super high as an offensive talent. Um, but I do think he's been a very good cornerback, and maybe they're a playoff caliber team right now, right? Like what are they?
When is
Five,
Hunter due back? I apologize.
like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't understand why unless you have football reasons, like playing Hunter more defensively, I don't know why you would risk any type of hindrance of Hunter's development. Like he looks like a freak athlete, and he started doing really well the last couple of weeks. And you could even just from the eye test, watching him play wide receiver, you know what I mean? He looked good.
Yeah,
So
but
I don't.
but on the flip side, Brian Thomas has not looked good in this offense. I still think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's undervalued as a wide receiver. I think again we overvalue as a society Trevor Lawrence's skill set at
For
quarterback.
sure.
I think this is more about, and let's be real, like Liam Cohen came into Brian Thomas. He was already on the roster.
Yeah.
Like Liam Cohen now gets to pick his guys and what fits his offense. And maybe it's, hey, I want to have a Godwin type guy, and I think Jacoby Myers maybe fits that better. And Brian Thomas can be my Mike Evans. I'm just gonna send him on streaks all day.
They are 5-3, delusionally fighting for a playoff spot, so maybe that's part of it. I don't
I
know.
also don't know how delusional it is considering how bad the rest of the AFC is. Like,
Yeah, I was just gonna correct myself. You're right. I don't know how delusional it is. The AFC is so wide open that yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't knock it. It's just I don't understand it fully.
yeah, no, I can understand that. I think that I actually in our league had a waiver wire in for Jacoby Myers and accidentally picked up two quarterbacks instead. So that was fun.
I mean,
Uh,
isn't he still available?
is he? I don't think he is.
I don't think anyone picked him up. I went for Parker Washington because I have more faith in him.
I
Well,
think Austin picked him up maybe.
how different? I mean, compared to the Seattle situation with Sheehy going to Seattle, like they have a clear-cut one in JSN, whereas I guess you're right, Jacksonville is kind of suffering without a clear-cut one. So, the more and more I think about it, the more you put it, it does make a little bit more sense than I was able to really
Yeah,
tie
I mean,
it to.
their most recent game, right, was against the Raiders. This is with Travis Hunter is out, De'Ami Brown is out, so that's wide receivers 2 and 3 are out with injury. They only
Yeah.
have Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington are the two healthy wide receivers that are normally on the roster, right? They had elevated practice squad guys. In a game that went to overtime, Brian Thomas Jr. got 5 targets, 3 catches, 55 yards. Parker
Yeah.
Washington, who started the season as the fourth string, had 8 catches on 10 targets. I don't have that up in front of me, but I can go look. He's on my team now. Give me a second here. So the point that I'm making is that Trevor Lawrence, not 8 catches on 9 targets. He got twice as many targets as Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah. See, it's just fascinating to me because with some of the personnel concepts with the healthy Travis Hunter, you don't want him impeding on his growth. Like, what is the goal for the Jaguars with Travis Hunter? Do you want him to become like a St. Brown, like an elite top, Justin Jefferson, a top guy? Then you better play him as much as you can offensively on the snaps as you can to develop him. So it's kind of like on these two wide receiver sets, it's like who's number two?
Well, that's the thing. So I think it's going
yeah,
to be Jacoby Myers as 2, Brian Thomas as 1, and Hunter will fall to 3.
be
So that's why I'm
third.
asking, like,
Yeah,
is
that's
this
that's alarming to me.
well? Because like when you look at how Hunter's played the last, like, this is the game that Brian Thomas Jr. didn't play right. He had he had 8 catches on 14 targets. It was a great game. This is the game where he finally got picked up off waivers by a lot of teams
Yeah,
in our league or in fantasy leagues, and then he got hurt and didn't play after that. But look at the games
yeah.
before that. They're so mediocre.
The only thing I'll argue is he is a true rookie. I know some
No,
it's nowadays
and
in
he
the
is a rookie.
NFL,
No, no, no.
but
I
yeah,
get that, Mitch. I'm
yeah,
not. This isn't me knocking Travis Hunter. But I'm saying is like
yeah.
the fact that they went and got Jacoby Myers, though. I understand they're
It's
doing it because
alarming.
they have a lot of
Yeah,
injuries now. Okay, it's a 1 season deal, but they got Jacoby Myers and then announced they want to re-sign him. That means it's not a 1 season deal. That means like Brian Thomas Jr. He's on a rookie deal. He's not going anywhere. Jacoby Myers, they're planning to re-sign him, which means Travis Hunter, like that kind of move. I see that as him being moved down to 3 because you're not going
yeah.
to
Some
trade
of
for
that
Jacoby
squeeze.
Myers and pay him to have him be your number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah, and behind closed doors, they could have a more defensive approach for Hunter in his future, so it could just be make complete sense. So whatever.
Yeah, just the timing was odd, and obviously it sucked for me because I picked up Parker Washington in a few leagues. I
Also,
still,
in our other league, Alex, we denied a trade for Hunter.
yeah, we did. Yeah, we. But yeah,
Someone offered us AJ Brown for Hunter, and we said nope, and that didn't
Well, it
go
was
well.
Hunter and Travis Etienne. It wasn't just Hunter. But
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, yeah. Hunter and
Yeah.
Etienne for
But yeah.
AJ.
Yes, you already touched on it, so we'll go to the next other big offensive trade from a fantasy standpoint. The Seahawks have acquired Rashid Shaheed from the Saints to pair with JSN. What is the fantasy impact of that? I mean, the Seahawks already had Kupp and Horton, and neither of them have really broken out, whereas Rashid Shaheed is now being reunited with his old offensive coordinator. He's going to be potentially the number 2 wide receiver in Seattle, behind JSN, like we talked about. Sam Darnold throws to JSN a lot, but it might be nice to have another guy who can take the top off the defense. JSN becomes the Justin Jefferson, and Rashid Shaheed becomes the Addison, right? To two parallels to Minnesota last year. What do you guys think of that move? Which is interesting, by the way, because for those who didn't look at the stat lines from the Saints game this past weekend, Olave got 4 targets and Shaheed got 9. So Tyler Shuck throws to Shaheed a lot more than Olave, but they still dealt Shaheed and kept Olave. So what do you think this does to Olave's value? Does it go back up now that he doesn't have Shaheed to compete with for targets? And what do you guys think this does for the value of Darnold and Shaheed and to a lesser extent JSN?
I actually hate this the most. I think the biggest effect that I see is actually JSN, and that's just me personally, and only because they literally weren't throwing the ball to anybody else. Like, JSN's still going to be good, but the guy was literally on a historic pace. I just think, like, now there's some real competition with a real wide receiver, too. In deep leagues, Shaheed is one of my favorite players to have. If there's long play bonuses, if there is return yards, kick return, punt return, for like the last 3 years, he's been their kick returner. This year, he has not. Shaheed is the sneakiest, like, depth piece you could possibly own in some leagues because he can be good in the right opportunity. And I really think that in Seattle is the right opportunity. Like, this is a really good spot for him to go in and operate as a true wide receiver 2 on a good offense with a quarterback who's playing out of his mind right now, that I could not have been more wrong about. But I love this for Shaheed and don't love it as much for JSN. I still think JSN is going to be a wide receiver 1, like, lock it in, but the guy has been on an unreal pace, and I just think that slows a little bit.
Can we play a quick game real quick on we'll call it the Rashid Shaheed game. Who would you rather have, Rashid or this guy for the rest of the year? You guys mind?
I mean, you have to tell me who this guy is before I vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to keep naming it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Rashid...
I'm filling the role of Mitchell and trying to ruin all the games on the podcast. So.
That's fine. It's a fun role. Rashid Shaheed or Juwan Jennings?
Shaheed.
Shaheed or Dobbs? Shaheed or Adunze?
Oh man, that's tough. I'm gonna say Adunze, but that's the fact that he got nothing against the Bengals is scary to me, right? Like that.
Shaheed or Troy Franklin?
Shaheed.
Shaheed or Jameson Williams?
I hope it's Shaheed because I have Shaheed. Matt has Williams, so I'm gonna say Shaheed based purely on hope.
Who did you say, Vinny? Sorry.
I'm gonna have to go Shaheed. I just think Williams has been
interesting. Shaheed or Debo?
Wow.
I'm gonna say Debo just because McLaurin's gonna be out for a while.
I don't know enough about Debo this year. Let me look. He had 4. I'm gonna go Shaheed.
Shaheed or Purcell?
Well, Lord knows when Purcell might as well have just gotten shot in the knee.
I don't know if Purcell's ever going to play football again. I don't know what Purcell and Brock Purdy both.
Take him out. I thought he was coming back. I might have misread. My bad.
No, like, he's been coming back for like 3 years. I think Kyle Shanahan just like released a report that like his recovery is like fuzzy. Like, even like he doesn't know when he's coming back.
Shaheed or Jordan Addison?
Addison. Oh God, but the quarterback's so bad.
Yeah, the quarterback is so bad.
Oh man, that's tough. I'm going to say Addison only because I believe that Addison is the wide receiver 1 with McCarthy at QB. He's the one getting all the red zone looks. He's the one getting the targets. Like,
now we're gonna probably start getting into the ones where I think we'll start taking the other guy over Shaheed. But Shaheed or Stephon Diggs?
Probably Diggs. He's been doing pretty well these last few weeks.
Alex?
I mean, yeah, I'll say Diggs, but the problem with Diggs isn't a problem with Diggs. It's a problem with Drake May. Drake May, like I said, he throws
Finds
to who's
different
open. He
guys.
doesn't pick a
Yeah.
guy and make that his guy. He's like, I'm gonna throw the ball as who's open. Which look, it's great for his team, but it's terrible in fantasy.
Shaheed or Devontae Smith?
I missed that. I literally just
I would take
I,
Devonta Smith
I just fell off my chair and
Shaheed or
just I
Devontae
just like
Smith?
face planted into the ground. So.
because of what I said, or just because you can't sit.
No, I've got one of these like really stupid like kneeling chairs, and I was messing around with it. Luckily, the mattress is right behind me, but I literally fell off the back of it and face planted
Oh, I
into
know
it.
the ergonomic chairs that help you
Yeah,
like.
those like ergonomic ones. I'm gonna say Devontae Smith.
Okay, well, then it gets to the obvious one. Now we're entering Marvin Harrison, Michael Pittman, Tedero McMillan, Zay Flowers. Would you take Shaheed over any of those guys?
No, probably not.
Okay, so then we basically put him into the top 24. He's right at the 23, 24, 25 spot.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with him there.
I feel like the
I
only
mean, I
one I
hope
would
he's there. Like I
play,
said, I just picked him up off waivers. Like,
the only person
it's
I would
great for
politely
me.
disagree with out of all those guys is probably Troy Franklin. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why, but he seems to be a Shaheed type.
No,
But
the only issue I have with Franklin is the same issue you could say with Diggs and May is that, you know, on any given day it can be Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin,
Sutton, yeah.
Evan Ingram, Sutton, RJ Harvey apparently is like the pass catching back in that offense. So
Yeah.
um
Artisan was tough for me too. But yeah, so we're basically all putting Shaheed somewhere around that right outside of top 24 spot. It's interesting.
I think people forget how good Shaheed was last year before he got hurt too. Um and listen, this is not going to be a guy that I think he's a better version of Jamison Williams from a pure statistics standpoint, maybe not like an overall talent standpoint. Um, but like he was pretty good he was like really good at fantasy last year before he got hurt. Um, I can't remember. Let's look.
I got the stats on screen right now.
Maybe it wasn't last year. Was it the year before? What was the? He like went off for like long touchdowns, and I mean, I guess last year's not bad. He had besides this like goose egg against the Eagles, he went for 70 plus yards and a touchdown in like almost every game until he just didn't play. Um, yeah, 59-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown. I mean, I think he's going to fit really well into this offense, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a coordinator that used him well before he got hurt last year. It's a quarterback who needs another weapon, another reliable weapon, I guess I should say. Um, I mean, last year, you're talking about the Seahawks having Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and JSN. Now they only have JSN, so yeah, I think there's potential there, and like I said, that's why I picked him up off waivers in our league, and a lot of other leagues he was already being held for reasons unknown. But yeah, we'll see, right? I think that the two that have the most potential fantasy impact are Shaheed and Jacoby Myers for obvious reasons, and I think Shaheed has a better chance of being an impactful player than Jacoby, just because the quarterback situation is so much better for him, and it's so nebulous in Jacksonville as to who the wide receivers are, who's playing where, etc., etc.
And I will say this: I will beat a table over this. If they decide to use him as a returner in the modern NFL, if you get points for return yards, Shaheed is a must start.
Yeah, that there's definitely a chance he'll be the
IDP leagues.
returner, and yeah, if you're in a league where it's not defense special teams combined, you get points for that player, then yeah.
Yep.
All right, boys and girls, those were kind of the big trade talks that I had. Were there any other NFL trades yesterday that you wanted to discuss that I didn't already bring up?
I just wanted to do a little rewind because Mitch touched on this a little bit. which I think is a pretty fascinating discussion because I think a lot of people disagree with me, and analysts who know sports a lot more disagree with me on this because I've read all their takes. The final, I mean, we can even include Logan Wilson in it if we want to, but the final ticket so far for what the Micah Parsons trade is so fascinating to me. You've got Micah Parsons and a second round pick for a first round pick, Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark. And I understand that Micah Parsons is a generational defensive end, outside linebacker. I just think people constantly say that without thinking about the fact that he makes $55 million a year, and they were bad with him. I think they got a very, very reasonable haul. Maybe they shouldn't have given up the additional second round pick for Williams. I wish that was a little bit later. But you get 2 stud interior defensive linemen and a first round pick, and you're probably still not paying the combined salary of both of those guys what you would pay one Micah Parsons. I just have a hard time thinking they're not winning on that, even though the rest of the world seems to disagree with me.
Oh, they're 100% winning once they got Q. I just think the Jets saved Jerry Jones massively. Like the owner must owe something to Jerry Jones because you cannot get a Q Williams like player with any of those picks that he's going to get in the Micah Parsons trade. Like you would have to trade up to get a player like Q. So, yeah, I think the Q, once in hindsight, knowing you got Q, I never thought that was going to be a possibility to replace Micah Parsons with that type of quality. Usually you have to replace that in the draft. So, yeah, no, 100%. I think it should not be avoided that Jerry Jones did right. Jerry Jones, like somehow, wouldn't suggest this to other owners to follow the Jerry Jones, ownership plan or whatever. But man, he did well with that. In my big time. I mean, just wait. All of a sudden, the D line of the Cowboys are going to be a top 10 run stopper with those 2 guys there. It's crazy.
I mean, timelines and perception matters, right? So coming into the season, Cowboys fans are expecting to do well, and I think a lot of the league expected their offense to be good, not necessarily as good as it has been, but they expected that offense to be good, and it was basically just like, if the defense can just be mediocre, this team can be a competitor. And so to start the season by trading away your best defensive player, really, I think the perception of that and the timing of that is why that trade was so frowned upon, because this is a team that's like, hey, if our defense is a little better this year, we have a chance to be a contender, and we're starting off the season by saying, nope, our defense will 100% be worse. And so I think that's why the trade is looked on poorly, because you're going for future value with draft picks, which is great, except you're trying to win now. Obviously, like you said, now that they've turned that into some players that are playing now, we'll see how that works out. Maybe 5 years from now it's looked on in a different manner, but that's why it was looked on so poorly at the time, because at the time that was what the Dallas Cowboys needed this season, and they're like, nope, we're kicking it down the road. So I think that's why. To answer your question, Vinny.
Yeah, for sure. No. Also on the other side too, I think he did. A good job of getting Pickens. So I mean, I think Jerry the GM gets a lot of criticism, and he's sure he invites it, but it might not be as warranted as it should be, I guess. I think Jerry actually, and also I'd like to say, like, he cares about, like, how many people wish the owners of their team cares about their franchise. So if he cares a little bit too much and does some bad trades and stuff like that, I guess that's better than the alternative of like being a Chargers fan with the Spanos brothers or Jaguars or Shaq Khan or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how many more bad moves he can make in the future. But as of right now, Jerry's sitting pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? Like, anytime you have a trade that involves draft picks, we won't know until later on what those picks turn into, right? You can look at a trade and evaluate it one way one day and another next. But let's move on. All right, if no one has any other trade talks, then let's go. You guys want to go around the league real quick from last week?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to go around the league and see where things landed last week, week 9. So first things first, we'll talk with the Sharks blowing out the Yak of Lamb, which helps you out, Vinny. I made the big brain call of picking up Flacco weeks ago, knowing that I'd be starting him this week, and that worked out because he absolutely balled out. Most of those points coming in garbage time. He had around 20 points and then got 18 with like 4 minutes left in the game, which is great for me. On the other side of the ball, Cameron, I don't think he had a single player score a touchdown, and you're not going to win a lot of games when you don't score touchdowns in fantasy football. I think he had a bunch of guys on bye or injured or what have you. So yeah, not a lot to say here. I think Flacco kind of single-handedly won this for me. You guys ready to move on to the next one?
Man, who's the lucky guy that gets to play Cameron next week without Mahomes? Oh wait,
You,
it might be me.
Lord, only you would ask that.
It's the only reason because I knew I was getting it. But
Yeah,
All right.
well, I have to miss out on Rishi Rice. So
All right, I'm gonna go to the next next game. Why don't you guys break down this slobber knocker?
yeah. I mean, listen, I know Chris got mad last year when I was like, how, like, it was just one of those things. It was like, oh, how mad is Chris? Like when you're talking about like all the injuries that he has on his team. I don't mean like he's actually genuinely mad. I just know if you put myself in Chris's shoes, there has not been a single person who has worse luck drafting people. Jaden Daniels, like literally, I mean, that's another video. Like you guys watched the Scattaboo video. The Jaden Daniels video is watch if you like gross stuff. Don't watch if you don't like gross stuff. But poor, and then he loses Tucker Kraft for the season. Like, man, Chris, I feel for you, buddy. Right when GT and Harrison actually start doing something fantasy relevant, he can't even keep a healthy lineup. So, and then we talked about Miles. Like, sorry, Miles. Next year, just redraft your same team. Might work out better for you.
Yeah, it must be nice. I wouldn't know what it's like to play Miles. When Miles played me, he scored 125 fantasy points. So I don't know. Every time I see him every week, he's put up these numbers. I'm like, great, good job, thanks. But speaking of, my non guy was a great ad.
Yeah, great ad. I did think it was interesting, kind of going back though. Apparently, the Bears were in on the Brees Hall trade.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So there
Really,
were
that's surprising.
there were reports that they had at least tested the waters. Now I don't know if they offered anything, but like they were one of the interested parties, and so I think that's interesting as well as Monangai and Swift have been doing. But maybe again that's just a system. And Ben Johnson's like, bro, if you give me Brees Hall, oh my god, So
Yeah, he's probably thinking it's a system for sure.
yeah, selfishly, I wanted Brees Hall for the one league that I had him in, and then I thought like later I was like that would also just cook me in like 5 or 6 leagues that I don't have Brees Hall in if you were to go to the Chiefs or to go to the Bears. So I'm kind of actually excited that he didn't get traded.
Yeah, but imagine I'm Brees Hall and this Sunday being like, man, I could be on the Chiefs. I'm not running. F you guys. I should have been lower value. You guys wanted a third or whatever. I should have just done worse. Made myself a fourth value or whatever. Well, Chris, these two are very unfortunate. Chris and Miles have had some bad luck.
I mean, it is what it is, right? I think
Yeah.
Miles might be on pace for one of the lowest scoring seasons ever, so hopefully he can turn it around for his own sake.
I think Sylvie is
Um,
much lower than him, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I guess we'll find out. But yeah, this week was rough for a couple of these teams. We mentioned Danny Dimes had his worst week ever. Monangai had an amazing game. But yeah, Miles been bit by the injury bug pretty bad. So we'll see. Same with Chris. He's got a lot of plus signs and IRs and whatnot. But Marvin Harrison Jr., the one spotlight, finally playing well now that Jacoby Brissett's there. I don't like having to play him with Jacoby Brissett. I would much rather Kyler start next week because I'm playing against Chris. Yeah. All right, moving on. Spark plugs and Penguins. Break still rolling. Still rocking the double Rams wide receiver strat. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it because they just keep on trucking. Puka's always slightly hurt, so we got to worry if he'll stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, Break's team still looking solid. Gibbs has been his weakest link.
He fell into the pitch trap and then loses points. Everyone who picks up Pitts and starts them, their backup tight end does much better every time, or their first one does better every time. Adam is just so funny. He's got two of the top four fantasy QBs, and Herbert and Hurts. They're 2 and 4, I believe. And I don't think he started correctly one week. Which week he should, you know what I mean? Like Hurts should have started. He's having tough, but on the bye he'll correctly call it. And then I should probably just trade Adam Stafford just for giggles, right? And see if he starts.
Well, I know from experience that trading of you is not really a thing because you're not willing to move people you're never going to start. But yeah, I'm worried about Brake's team at running back though because this week he's got to find somebody off waivers. Hunt and Pollard both have a bye, so he's going to have to find a waiver wire running back to start this week against Matt. I think.
I'll give him ETN for Puka.
Yeah, he better not do that. Dad's team didn't perform. Brake's team did. Not much else to say there. All right. Serial killers end their 4-game winning streak by getting drubbed by Team Phoenix, who finally comes alive. Even with Roma Dunze putting up a goose egg. Drake London finally having a great game. CMC having another great game. Etienne putting up the yards with no touchdowns. Dak having his worst game of the season. But yeah. Vin, how you feeling now that your team's coming alive?
I mean, I don't really have any concerns. I mean, I've scored over 100 points 4 out of 5 weeks. I think the one time I didn't was like 80-something points with Dak getting 6 against Mitch, but Mitch blew me out I'm not saying I had a chance. I think I lost by like 50 or 60 points, but yeah, I don't have any complaints. I will say, dude, the Texans have been like a must-start defense every single week. I think from a league standpoint, like if you do have to start defenses, I haven't even considered picking up anybody else, even against hard matchups. Like anybody knows in DoD, if your defense can get you over 10 points on average, you're starting them every single week. I think they're probably my best player so far from a fantasy standpoint, aside from Christian McCaffrey. But yeah, I don't have any complaints. Adunze can get 0. It doesn't really. I don't really am too worried. I think he only had 3 targets. And as good as Caleb was, like it was still only 280 yards, and weeks like that happen. So yeah, Sylvie's team, unfortunately, I mean, look at all those plus signs next to her name. I don't know what she's going to do at quarterback next week because I don't even know if Fields is playing. Does she have a backup?
To who? To Stroud?
Stroud.
Fields.
It's Fields.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what she's going to do moving forward. I know, Alex, you thought she was like a little sleeper pick.
I didn't think she was a sleeper pick. Just you guys were talking about you guys kept talking about Luis's team. I'm like, Luis has no chance. Sylvie was the one who had a chance because she was actually winning games. Like Sylvie's only like a game out of third place, right? Like for the wild card, right? So right now the wild card would be me at 7-2. Then it would be one of the teams at 5-4. So she's 4-5. If she wins this game, she's tied with all the people buying for wild card, right? Besides me. So that's what I meant by she had a chance. I think Luis is just too far gone. He's 4 games back of the division and 2 games back of the wild card with only 5 games left to play.
Achane is a top 12, 10 fantasy running back. Pittman's a top 10 fantasy wide receiver, and the Chargers D is a top 5. She's got good players that can compete on a weekly basis. It's just really hard in this league to win without a quarterback that can potentially, like, I know Fields and Stroud aren't terrible fantasy QBs, but you need something like even Prescott's bad games are 17 points type of thing. That's all it is. If she just had a little bit, if Stroud had a better year or Fields had a more consistent year, then she'd definitely be doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, Phil's going to have to be passing a lot more because now they have no defense on the Jets, so we'll see.
Fields is going to be in trouble.
Vinny, I did you a favor by beating Cameron, and Mitch, you did me a favor by beating Matt, so thank you for that. Both quarterbacks balled out. Man, I was worried in this game. So, Darnold was the Monday night game, or the Sunday night game, rather, and Mitch's lead wasn't as big as I wanted it to be. And I was like, well, as long as Darnold doesn't ball out, we'll be fine. He goes 16 for 16 and 4 TDs in the first half. I'm like, oh, God. Oh
Yo,
no.
I was not happy at halftime. He had 33 of those 35 fantasy points, not even joking. And Matt was on pace to beat me, and that would have been I was like fuming because I was like, oh, what is Vinny got some stupid stat for all you need to do is win 88 points or whatever. I'm gonna have three losses this year over 100 points. I scored 120 and lost this year. So I was actually kind of fuming at halftime, and I turned off the game, and Darnold had what's it called, like 2 points the rest of the game. But in hindsight, I'll take any win where Jonathan Taylor gets me 5 points and I get the win.
I was
So
about to
can't
say,
complain.
getting a W in Jonathan Taylor's what's got to be his worst game of the year.
Yeah,
That's got to be big for you. So,
yeah.
but yeah, your
Before
team's
you move
winning.
on, I just want to highlight, there is somebody on this podcast who dropped like the number one kicker in fantasy football. So, Mitch has definitely greatly benefited from
Well, he's
that.
now injured, so we'll see, right?
And also the other number one fantasy is on waivers right now.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to take a look here. Let's find out who you guys are referring to. Let's go to stats,
The one who I almost traded Higgins for is
kickers,
literally on
stats.
waivers. He
Yep.
didn't trade me and then put him on waivers.
Let's see. If we go by all players, kicker. Go by average. Number one
Oh
fantasy
my God, are
kickers,
you kidding me? He's on waivers?
Fairbairn, and then
Oh, just
Pinheiro,
kidding.
and then yeah.
I thought Aubrey was on waivers.
You're
Were you
right.
trying-
Fairbairn has jumped my boy Pinheiro to be the number one kicker. It was Pinheiro. Fairbairn did jump me, which Fairbairn is who I had before I dropped Pinheiro. But look at this, expected to miss week 10, Mitch. So now you need a
Yeah.
kicker, you little bastard.
Yeah, well,
So
I'll be dropping Higgins for a backup kicker. Just kidding.
I mean, if you do that, I'll be picking up Higgins, who I tried to trade you for. I offered you Pinheiro. That deal's still on the table. If you want the number 2 fantasy kicker for a
No, I was
wide
talking about
receiver.
Butker, Vinny, with Luis.
I don't see Butker on waivers.
I thought he was. Maybe I misread it.
Oh, maybe because he has a bye. You're right.
Yeah.
Let me look at stats year to date.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm going
Yeah.
by average because average is what matters to me when you're talking kicker. But Butker is still not number one. I mean he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's 10 in year to date and nowhere near the top in average.
Oh, well, he was doing better a couple weeks ago. I guess he got passed. Oh, that makes more sense. I don't know why I thought I had him. I don't know.
Okay,
what
well now that
list is.
we've had this weird detour, let's go back to going around the league.
Hey, you talked about my kicker, bro. You were talking about my kicker.
Yeah, what does that have to do with a terrible kicker on a buy on waivers? I don't understand.
Scores, Alex. I know. Mitch got you rattled.
Hey, I'm rattled, man, because he won't trade me. He's got 4 wide receivers. There's one of them. He's never going to play Higgins. He doesn't like Higgins. Last week, let's go to the stats. I keep telling him that you need to stop starting Zay Flowers. Flowers got 6 fantasy points. Higgins had 26. All right, but he won't trade him to me and he won't start him. It's so rude.
Okay, I'm gonna go on record and say this, and I don't want to make Mitch's team better. I'm just trying to figure out what world Zay Flowers is better than Waddle and Higgins from a
I
fantasy
know.
standpoint.
I'd be starting Waddle and Higgins over Flowers and maybe even Rice. I mean, maybe not Rice, but now that he's playing so well, but like definitely like
Rice is the highest average per week.
Flowers
Bro.
is the number 4 on your team, and it's not close. But whatever. Look, I'm fine with you starting Flowers. It's better for me if you start
Who
Flowers.
wants
Give
to
me
do
one
a-
of these guys.
Who wants to do a Flowers Higgins pie bet?
Oh yeah, right now. What's the bet?
Okay.
Rest of season?
Yeah, just rest of the season.
Done.
Yeah, but wait.
Well, hold on,
before you say
No,
that,
wait, hold on. Flowers has
Flowers
already had a
has already
bye.
had his
Higgins
bye.
hasn't. So yeah, we have to not counting. So
Okay,
we'll have to start
alright.
week 11.
I guess we will have to start at the end of next week or whatever.
Yeah, start
but-
week 11.
I might consider doing a double pie bet that I think Waddle and Higgins both outscore Flowers for the rest of the year. But I'm already like 0 for 2 in pie bets.
Well,
versus
that'll be my decision to lose then to have on my bench.
This is like I said, I don't want to make
Chris
your
for
team
dropping
better,
Waddle.
but I really think that for whatever reason, and I'd love to hear your reasoning behind it, you glossed Zay Flowers, and I do not know why.
It's just the eye test. You watch these offenses, and in a TD dependent league, Lamar's throwing 4 or 5 TDs a week. It's not even close. Whereas I can't even depend on Tua half the time. And then the week before, Higgins had 1 reception on 2 targets last week. And you guys are like, "Wow, start Higgins over Zay, who's consistently gets 8 to 9 targets a week, at least in his
We had
lowest
this
games are
argument already.
7."
All right, let's go to your 8 to 9 targets argument. All right, hold on.
right,
So
what-
5, 10, 9,
10.
5, 8, 3. Like that's not
His average
consistently-
11-9. His average is much higher targets. And then you guys are asking, and then Waddle and Higgins literally last week had 2 targets, and you guys are like, "Oh, much. You definitely need to start him."
That's 1 week, but outside of that, since Flacco's gotten there, 7 or no,
They had
Flacco
the
got here,
same amount of
8,
targets
10, 2, 9,
since what's
20
his name?
in the last 4 weeks since Flacco got there. He has 29.
And Zay also wasn't QB dependent on
Zay
being a
has
good wide receiver.
19, 29. They had the exact same amount of targets
Pitch.
for the last 2 weeks.
How many passing touchdowns did Lamar Jackson have last year?
41.
41. How many receiving touchdowns did Zay Flowers have last year?
I don't know, 7 or 8. I forget.
4.
Yeah. So
You know who has the NFL record for most consecutive TDs at home? T. Higgins. He scored a touchdown in his last 13 home games.
Not Zay Flowers.
If you're not starting T. Higgins in a home game, what are you doing? But okay, fine. Throw Higgins out of it. Look how good Waddle has been. Like I don't know. I don't understand the
how
Zay
good has
Flowers
Waddle been? 4
17, 9,
targets,
1,
1
15,
reception
8.
for 15 yards.
Yeah, against
Okay,
the Browns.
whoa,
It's against the best
time out.
defense in football. Like that's one
Listen,
game, man.
also-
So that's what I'm saying. Is Zay is literally my wide receiver number 2, and he is the most consistent of the 3.
Listen, that's the 1 week I bench Waddle in every league that I have him in, and he's a must start for me because there was like reports of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And there was like.
Well, I didn't know about the
45.
wind gusts, but
So, I just listen. You've got 2 people who are good at fantasy, and I don't think. Listen, I think Zay Flowers is a better receiver than both of those guys.
yeah.
Just
Look at what
until-
happens when Lamar wasn't there. Sorry to cut you off, Eddie. When
No,
Lamar
I'm
wasn't
saying,
there,
until
Zay
Zay
was doing
Flowers
great.
puts up fantasy points. I don't know how you don't start Higgins or Waddle over them.
Higgins and Waddle are both top 12 fantasy wide receivers. One's
Yeah.
9, one's 12.
Zay's like 18 without
20, 21, 22,
He's probably like
23,
50.
24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30,
I
32,
don't-
33, 34,
Okay.
35. Zay's wide receiver 35. I mean, I don't know why I'm helping you get your team better, but like, you understand what I'm saying here, right? Like,
I think Mitch honestly just saw 35 and like his life flashed before his eyes just a little bit.
No, Alex is always clicking buttons. I gotta go to my.
I'm not
I gotta
clicking
go
anything.
check
I'm sort by wide receiver, all players, stats, sorted by total fantasy points.
Yes, so now you're gonna have to take off like Higgins and Waddle haven't had their bye or whatever, and you
Okay,
need
you want to do it
need
by
add
average
them.
fantasy points? We'll do average. That's fine. This takes into account buys. Let's see if that
Yeah.
changes anything. So Higgins is now 16. Waddle's now 20.
I'll take any pie.
Zay
bet
Flowers
on
is
Zay
still
versus
around
anyone.
35.
Sure, then take the pie bet. What's the problem?
I did. I accepted it instantly. The
Okay,
only
then
thing
we're
I said
good.
was
Then we're
I'm not going
good.
to give you. I'm not going to give you next week because next week Higgins has a bye. I'm not going to give you a 1 week bonus. Right? If you're wanting to take them straight up, I'll take them straight up. But like, Higgins isn't going to play next week. So if we're
If you
doing rest
take-
of
if you-
season, we'll do rest of season starting week 11 when they're both playing for the rest of the season.
If you take out season-ending injuries, he's 33.
No, I'll leave injuries in there.
Hey, Wandale Robinson or Zay Flowers because there's a 0.1 point per game difference.
Anyway, let's.
Tet McMillan or Zay Flowers because they're the same. Hey, Chris Olave or Zay Flowers because of.
I'll
Right?
take Flowers over Olave, but I take the other two over him. But let's go back to fantasy game tracker. We got one more game to talk about.
Why is Zay ranked 5th on almost all website as the overall best receiver going into week 10? Just curious.
I genuinely don't know because the stats I just showed you do not tell that story at all.
Zay is ranked ahead of Waddle. I know Higgins is on a bye, but Zay is ranked ahead of Waddle on all rankings.
Probably because Mitch did pick experts and he picked his own name.
No, look at ranking list. Pull it up right now. Why is Zay ahead of Waddle on every single
I
ranking
genuinely
list?
cannot tell you because I just showed you all the stats of why that's inaccurate. Waddle has more
Are you
average
looking
fantasy
at
points
Jamie
per
Eisenberg's
game, more
ranking?
points per game.
No, look
This
at
is
all
one
of
of those
them.
where you believe in your guy and that's cool, and you're allowed to believe in your guy. I'm not. There's nothing I'm going to
First
say.
of
that
all,
makes
he
you not
wasn't
believe
my
in him.
guy. It was Nolan's guy, but yeah.
You believe in Zay Flowers. I believe in the guys who have statistically been better than him all season. So that's fine. Let's move on.
Well, look at all the pros. They apparently believe in Zay more than Waddle this
Yeah,
week.
because of the pros, I drafted Amari in Hampton. How'd that work out for me?
I mean, it worked out really
Because
well.
of the pros,
You
I
got
drafted
an
Malik
injury.
Neighbors. How'd that work out for me?
I was gonna say, or even Hampton's
Because
not a
the
good
pros,
example, 'cause
I
if he
I
have
didn't
an
listen to
answer.
the pros, and I drafted Javonte Williams and Josh Jacobs highly. How'd that work out for me? So pros can get out. I'm the pro now. This is our podcast. Listen to me. All right, last game. Luis takes an L because he doesn't have another running back. He had Brees Hall on bye. He had Rashard White on bye, so he had to roll out the third string running back for the Chiefs. I guess second string because Pacheco didn't play, but still got him a goose egg, which was enough to lose the game. He scored 90 in a loss. Austin, in a game where Brock Bowers is like, hey, you guys forgot about me because I haven't been playing, but I'm still that guy, came out with 12 grabs, 127 yards, and 3 touches. An absolute monster day. To get 30 points out of any player is great. To get 30 points out of a tight end is just unreal. And, yeah, that was the difference in the game.
Yeah, don't get me. Dude, Austin is one of those teams that's gonna unfortunately peak late, and I don't think they have a shot at the playoffs. I will say, if I'm Mitch, if Austin was 4-5, I would be very concerned. 3-6, I don't think there's anything to really worry about. But I don't know. I don't know what he read that he started Marks over Dowdle last week.
Yeah, that's a wild decision.
That's a wild decision. So that's 24 more points.
But that's what I was talking about last week. Like if I were Austin last week, I would have dropped Marks to pick up a wide receiver that he didn't start a wide. Yeah, I would have dropped Marks. He's the worst running back on his team. Like he's got Dowdle, he's got Charbonnet, he's got Robinson.
He's probably just hedging his happiness on Sundays. Mark scores against his Broncos team, then he's happy.
Yeah, I don't know. I am playing Austin at a terrible time. Then he has Matt, and then he has to go through the division. I mean, dude, think about this. You know who leads the NFC in rushing yards right now?
Is it Dowdle?
It is Rico Dowdle.
Nice. I mean, dude's a monster.
Yeah, no. He's an absolute monster. He has 735 yards. He's third in the NFL behind Jonathan Taylor and James Cook.
And he's only started 4 of those games.
Correct. So you put Dowdle, Bijan, Nico, JSN, Drake May the way he's playing, Bauer. Like, this is, in my opinion, probably the best team in our league if it stays healthy and plays up to how it should. I just don't know how you beat Bijan and Dowdle at running back and JSN at wide receiver and Bowers at tight end. Like, and then you have Drake May, who's had an MVP caliber season. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a great team. I'm glad I'm already past it, for sure. All right, that's the Around the League. We have just a tiny bit of time left. I have a small game we can play if you'd like, unless someone else has something they'd rather do.
Is it called What's in the Box?
It is not. Also, Mitch, are we locking in that pie bet starting from week 11 forward, Zay Flowers versus T. Higgins?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Just total fantasy
Vinny
points?
could do Zay versus Waddle, too, if he wants to get another pie bet.
I mean, Vinny can take that one. Vinny, you want to take the Waddle one?
I'll take Waddle.
All right. So I got T. Higgins versus Zay. You know, it'd make it even more fun if T. Higgins was on my fantasy team and you traded him to me. Just saying, throwing that out there. All right. So here's the game. I'm going to... This is a trend that's been going around. You guys may or may not have seen it. I'm going to give you a team, and you have to tell me where they rank on the list, number 1 through number 5, but you're not going to know who the other teams are when you're ranking this. So you're ranking them blind, right? So I'm going to give you one team, you tell me where on the list they are, then I give you the next team. You guys understand the concept of the game I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mitch, you on board?
Yep.
Okay. So these teams could be anyone. It could be a team that's a powerhouse like the Bills. It could be a trash can fire like the Jets. I'm not going to tell you what the teams are. So here we go. First team, Baltimore Ravens. Where are you putting them?
2.
Wait, explain it again?
So I'm going to give you 5 teams, and you tell me where they go on the list, 1 through 5, but you're not going to know who the teams are. You're only going to be told them one at a time. So Vinny is locking in the Ravens as the second best team. So he's hoping that I'm not going to then rattle off a bunch of more top-tier teams that are above them because he's only got 1 spot left above them. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, sure.
So-
Go 1.
So you think I'm not going to name any teams better than the Ravens. All right, so you got the Ravens at 1. Vinny's got them at 2. Next team, Carolina Panthers.
God, they're sneaky good. But as long as Bryce Young is their quarterback, I'm gonna go 4.
Probably 5.
Okay. Cool. Next team, Denver Broncos.
2.
I don't think they're better. I'm gonna have to put them at 3.
Okay. Next team, Arizona Cardinals.
Oh shoot, 5.
4.
And then the last team, Cleveland Browns, Vinny.
Oh God. Oh man, you literally trended that. I hedged my bets, and you completely hosed me on the hedging.
When you didn't put the Broncos above the Ravens, you were screwed.
I think the Browns are the best team in football, and I will tell you why.
So yeah, so that means Vinny's list was Browns at 1, Ravens at 2, Broncos at 3, Panthers at 4, and Cardinals at 5. And then Mitch, what was your list? You had Ravens at 1, Broncos at 2, Panthers at 5. Where did you put the Cardinals? 3 or 4? I can't remember.
4.
4, so that means you had the Browns at 3.
Yeah, I don't know what that list says.
So, yeah, I mean, both of you not quite fully accurate. Obviously, I would ask, hey, would you change anything if you knew all the teams in advance? And I guess you would. I guess obviously you'd move the Browns, but Mitch, would you change the Ravens and Broncos ratings if you'd known the teams' names in advance, or do you still like Ravens over Broncos?
Yeah, I'd still like the Ravens over the Broncos.
Fair enough. What about you, Vinny? Besides the obvious one of the Browns, would you change anything?
If I could just put the Browns at 5 and shift everything up 1, I'd be perfectly happy with that.
Okay. All right, I got one more set of teams. You guys want to do it again?
We're ranking it from first to best though, and we just don't know what teams are coming.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the exact game we just played, but with 5 different teams.
Sure.
All right. So the first team, Dallas Cowboys.
4.
3.
Next up, New England Patriots.
Oh my God, you're gonna do this to me again.
3.
This is a much different list than last time.
Well, yeah, it's all 5 different teams. Okay, Mitch said 3. Where are you putting them in?
2.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh Lord, you're making me do this. 4.
5.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, okay. 1.
1.
Indianapolis Colts.
2.
5.
I got Vinny again. You thought I couldn't give you the same thing with a bad team at the end there, so I gave you a good team at the end. So Vinny, your list then would have been Eagles 1, Patriots 2, Cowboys 3, Steelers 4, Colts 5. What would you have changed had you known the teams in advance?
I probably would. You're gonna probably disagree with me on this, and this might be a little bit of hate. I would probably only swap Cowboys and Colts.
Okay. So you'd move Colts up to 3, Steelers stay at 4, Cowboys go to 5?
Yep, and that would say I still think the Eagles and the Patriots are better.
Fair enough. Mitch, your list ended up being, I don't remember exactly what your list ended up being though. Eagles 1, Colts 2, Patriots 3, Cowboys 4, Steelers 5.
I might switch the Steelers and Cowboys, but it's pretty close to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mitch's list blind. I think that was great. But yeah, that's a little game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Any final thoughts for the week, boys?
No, I just wanted to say, like I think I started saying it earlier. I genuinely feel like this has been the hardest year to be a fantasy football coach, which is the amount of injuries to star players, quarterbacks, the carousel at running back 2 on probably a lot of people's teams, wide receiver 2. I don't know. I know there's usually a lot of effort into managing fantasy football teams. I just feel like this year has been particularly difficult to field like good rosters, and the teams that are healthy are the teams that are probably winning.
I mean, Mitch at least has an easy week coming up as he's a 42-point favorite against Cam. So,
and then Vinny did me a favor by taking Dart from Cameron. So,
All right, well,
I don't know who he's going to start. It's going to be tough.
gentlemen, thanks for being here. Listeners at home, thanks for listening. And I guess we will see you next time. Say goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Adios.